had no finished script. The director had never made a movie, and the stars were plucked off sitcom sets. It was a disaster waiting to happen, a $20 million panic job with nothing locked and everything riding on improv. So how did this barely functional wreck become a star-making juggernaut? Let's find out. This is the story of Bad Boys.
Bad enough, come get some. You like that shit? Wesley Snipes, passenger 57.
Bad Boys begins with a slick car, some fast food, and two cops who can't stop arguing. Marcus Burnett and Mike Lowry are narcotics detectives chasing a stolen shipment of heroin taken from their own evidence vault. Their only lead is Julie, a witness to a key murder tied to the heist, and she'll only cooperate if she can speak to Mike. When Mike isn't available, Marcus is forced to impersonate him, triggering a whirlwind of mounting action and rapid-fire exchanges that bounce between script and improvisation. The formula is familiar, but the delivery is unfiltered, unscripted, and louder than anything the screenplay could have planned for. In 1986, producers Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer purchased a screenplay by George Gallo titled Bulletproof Hearts for about $55,000. The project was initially developed at Disney's Touchstone label, later moved under Hollywood Pictures, with Michael Bay, then a high-profile commercial director, signed on to make his feature debut. At that point, the studio's version of the movie was far more comedic. Saturday Night Live's Dana Carvey and John Lovitz were cast in the lead roles. But development spiraled. Multiple writers were brought in to fix the draft, including James Toback, Larry Ferguson, and David Milch, but no version of the script seemed to work. Disney eventually placed the film into turnaround. Carvey had dropped out after test shoots, and Lovitz exited not long after. By the end of 1992, Simpson and Bruckheimer were left with a script no one wanted and no leads. They pulled the project from Disney and took it to Columbia Pictures, where executive Barry Josephson agreed to give it another shot. Over the winter of 1993 to 1994, Bay and his team scrambled to reinvent the story. Doug Richardson was hired later that year to help rebuild it from the ground up. When he arrived in Miami, he found only a half-finished script. He described the process as vomiting the script into his laptop and rewriting scenes night by night. He recalled a production office filled with envelopes containing revised drafts taped to the wall, a system more like controlled chaos than studio filmmaking. Simpson, notorious for micromanaging every script, had filled the draft with his own revisions. Michael Bay, still new to the process, handed Richardson a marked-up draft and asked him to salvage what he could. In May 1994, Columbia greenlit the project. It still had no formal shooting script. Bay later admitted bluntly, "Let's face it, I had a bad script." What saved the film, he believed, was the real comic talent of the two stars who had not yet been cast. What followed wasn't so much development as emergency triage. Bad Boys was patched together out of scraps. An old concept, a rewritten cast, a string of last-minute scenes. It wasn't built to work, it was pushed into existence by sheer force of will. With the Carvey-Lovitz plan scrapped and Columbia stepping in, Simpson and Bruckheimer had to find new leads, fast. Columbia believed they could build a workable action comedy around new faces. That's when Barry Josephson made his move. Josephson didn't just recommend Will Smith, he cast him. Smith was still best known for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but Josephson championed him hard. And when others objected, he pushed back harder. Simpson and Bruckheimer weren't convinced. Smith and Martin Lawrence weren't action stars, they were TV comics. But they were also cheap. Columbia didn't want to pay big money for big names, and Smith and Lawrence were each hired for just $1 million. Before that happened though, the project bounced between different possible leads. At one point, Eddie Murphy was approached but passed. So did Arsenio Hall. Neither wanted to board a film without a finished script, and both were out before Columbia even got involved. Martin Lawrence came in with Momentum, House Party, Boomerang, and a hit sitcom of his own. He had presence, timing, and edge. Paired with Smith, the two clicked instantly. Their scenes didn't feel scripted because most of them weren't. They rewrote their own dialogue, invented physical gags on the spot, and blurred the line between improv and structure. Around them, the rest of the ensemble was locked in. Téa Leoni was cast as Julie Mott, the witness who becomes the film's linchpin. Joe Pantoliano signed on as Captain Howard, delivering fast-talking frustration in every scene.
Flat his ass, he's no good to us. Fuck that. Fuck that. I'm not going down over this shit. I'm not going down for you killing JoJo the Time Man.
Production officially began on Bad Boys on June 27, 1994 in Miami and wrapped in just over 2 months. The team quickly transformed the city into a stylized battleground. A freighter on the Miami River doubled as a drug lab, a second floor in the Alfred DuPont building became a precinct, and the Opa-locka airport hosted the explosive finale. With only weeks before the leads returned to television, production had to move fast and flexibly. But what happened on set barely resembled a normal shoot. Director Michael Bay, in his first ever feature film, was thrown into a chaotic process where the script never truly existed in a finished form. The atmosphere wasn't just chaotic, it was dangerous. Téa Leoni was knocked unconscious after being hit by a prop during a botched stunt and was sent to the hospital. She later revealed she came frighteningly close to being permanently injured. Another day, a fish tank burst during a take. One assistant described it as a set that ran on panic, instinct, and last-minute fixes. Richardson noted that one of the biggest challenges wasn't the pace or lack of planning, it was Don Simpson. Even small decisions became arguments. Richardson remembered fighting over whether Marge Helgenberger should dye her hair red for continuity. At one point, Richardson jokingly wrote a character based on Simpson out of the script entirely, calling it the smartest thing I ever did. The actors were often improvising entire scenes. Michael Bay leaned into their comic timing, allowing Will Smith and Martin Lawrence to rework large stretches of dialogue. The tropical fruit bubblicious line and the Wesley Snipes passenger 57 shout were all improvised on the spot. Bay constantly worked around the film's budget limitations. With Columbia already nervous about casting sitcom stars in an action film, Bay pushed for maximum style wherever he could. What should have fallen apart somehow held together. Bay's inexperience, Smith and Lawrence's improvisation, Richardson's last-minute rewrites, and a constant sense of panic created a movie that was unstable at every turn, but impossible to ignore. For all the near accidents and script chaos, Bad Boys didn't just reach theaters, it landed like a hit, opening at number 1 and stayed on top into its second weekend. By the end of its run, it had cleared more than $140 million worldwide, a massive return on a film that nearly didn't happen. But the critics weren't as generous. Most of the criticism centered on the film's familiar plot structure, the same buddy cop formula audiences had seen before. Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel both gave it 2 out of 4 stars, citing recycled elements from Lethal Weapon and Beverly Hills Cop, overlong action scenes, and underused comedic talent. Ebert described the script as new wine in old bottles and called the film a checklist of cliches. Siskel said the movie lost him after its introduction, and that the talents of the leads were wasted on material that didn't rise to meet them. Still, the box office numbers showed the audiences had a different reaction.
Seemed like that gunshot wound has improved your driving skills. You got the right to remain silent.
After its theatrical success, Bad Boys transitioned smoothly into home viewing and kept finding its audience. It was first released on VHS and Laserdisc, then made its DVD debut in June 2000. The Blu-ray landed in 2010. The film's soundtrack also made waves. Released in March 1995, the album hit number 26 on the Billboard 200 and broke into the top 15 on the R&B charts. But not every fan was satisfied. The soundtrack's focus on rap and R&B left out much of Mark Mancina's original score, and most of the industrial rock tracks used during the Club Hell scene were also missing. Mancina's full score wasn't released until 2007, when La La Land Records issued a limited edition of 3,000 copies. Even in its afterlife, Bad Boys was split between what was marketed and what actually made the film memorable.
Now that's how you supposed to drive. From now on, that's how you drive!
What was supposed to be a low-stakes R-rated buddy cop film ended up launching the careers of its 2 stars, redefining Bruckheimer's brand in the 90s, and proving that spectacle could come from chaos. The critics didn't get it, but the audience did. Bad Boys wasn't polished, it wasn't smooth, but it had a pulse. And the machine that made Bad Boys would soon go bigger, louder, and a whole lot crazier. What happens when a script about convicts on a plane becomes a summer blockbuster with Nicolas Cage in the cockpit? Let's find out. This is the story of Con Air. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content.